UFC 285 is this week, and I'm going to be giving you a full card prediction and breakdown from the early prelims to the main event. And without further ado, let's get right into it. I'm super hyped for this card. I can't wait for it. So let's get into the first matchup on the card. We have Loik Radzhabov versus Esteban Ribovics. Radzhabov, I'm going to try and say that right every single time. I'll call it Loik after this, but 4-1, 31 years of age, 68 inches of reach. Ribas 11-0, 26 years of age and 69 inches of reach. Ribas will have a 1-inch reach advantage. Honestly, I'm not really too sure who to go with in this fight. Loik Radzhabov is coming on short notice. His last couple fights, Zach Zane submission and Eagle FC like a year ago. Lost to Roush Monfio on, I believe, the PFL finals. I think that's the finals, if I'm correct. He did lose on the PFL. It was one of the PFL series that they had. But Esteban Ribovics coming off a good win over Thomas Paul. Paul was actually landing some good shots. Esteban Ribovics really doesn't move his head at all. He kind of just keeps it straight, and Paul is just landing good shots on here. So this is like one of those matches. He's also KO'd quite a bit of guys and his other fighting, but it hasn't been necessarily the best opponents at all. We have a 6-5, 17-6, 21-6. So they're decent. 4-5, 2-2, 2-0, 5-6, 0-0. So it hasn't been like the greatest, toughest competition ever. Knocked out Thomas Paul, which was pretty impressive. He doesn't really move his head, but I think he's going to be able to outstrike Loik Radzhabov, kind of like how Manfio did. This one's kind of up in the air. It's a good test for both guys. I kind of just want to see what they look like, but I think I'm going to go with Ribovics. I think Tapology is going to 63% Ribovics in this matchup too. He is the younger fighter, so I'm going to give the edge to improvements on him. Even though he is Radzhabov, I believe, is they're only 31. I'm going to still edge it to Ribovics with the improvements. He does have a full training camp here. Radzhabov coming in on short notice. I think that might be a little bit of an issue with him cardio-wise if he wants to do takedowns. So I am going to go with Ribovics by decision in this matchup. Maybe he does find the KO, but I think this will probably be a decision. Up the card, we have Farid Basharat versus Damon Blackshear. Farid Basharat, 9-0, 25 years of age, 71 inches of reach. Blackshear, 12-4. And 28 years of age and 72 inches of reach. Blackshear will have a 1-inch reach advantage. I am going to go with Farid Basharat for his last couple comps. Obviously, you know his brother Javid Basharat is also in the UFC. These Basharat brothers are pretty technical and pretty good. Farid Basharat was in the last UFC Contender Series, the 2022 version. He beat Alan Bagazzo. Some of these names, dude. But for Damon Blackshear, I believe he came in on short notice, fought Yusuf Zalal. Ended up getting a majority decision. I believe it was a majority draw in this matchup. I think he did get 2 10-9s, and then he lost a 10-8 in that last round. So he was winning. He was up 2 rounds against Yusuf Zalal, so that looked pretty good for him. But I am going to go with Farid Basharat. I think he's just going to be more technical on the feet. I think he's going to avoid some of those bad ground positions that Blackshear can put him in. In general, a lot of the guys, especially Yusuf Zalal, some of the bad positions there. So I am going to go with Farid Basharat. I think he just outpoints him on the feet. But Blackshear is a good opponent here, but I am going to go with Basharat on the feet for sure. Up the card, we have Jessica Penne versus Tabatha Ricci. Penne, 14-6, 40 years of age and 67 inches of reach. Ricci, 7-1, 28 years of age and 62 inches of reach. Jessica Penne will have a 5-inch reach advantage. I am going to go with Tabatha Ricci in this matchup. I think Jessica Penne, 40 years old, just lost to Emily Ducote, who did not actually look too good against Angela Hill. Angela Hill's a pretty solid competitor in the women's division, but again, she pretty much got outclassed on the feet by Angela Hill, and then Emily Ducote kind of did the same thing to Penne a little bit. So Tabatha Ricci, her only loss really in their last 5, or on her whole record actually, was the Manon Fiorot, which is a great loss to have. In general, she did get TKO'd, but Manon Fiorot's a very good competitor. Did beat Maria Oliveira. Did somewhat beat Polyana Viana. That one's a little bit arguable also, but she did beat Polyana Viana, which is a pretty good competitor too. But for Jessica Penne, split decision to Lupi Godinez, which is an alright win. Karolina Kowalkiewicz lost to Danielle Taylor. Jessica Andrade is a good loss to have. But I think 40-year-old Jessica Penne, who just lost to Emily Ducote, I'm going to go with Tabatha Ricci for sure in this one. Up the card, we have Martinez versus Cameron Saaiman. Martinez, 10-3, 26 years of age, 70 inches of reach. Saaiman, 7-0, 22 years of age, and 67 inches of reach. Martinez will have a 3-inch reach advantage in this matchup. I am going to go with Cameron Saaiman in this matchup. His last fight against Steven Kozlov was actually pretty impressive. Although he got taken down a couple times, he reversed position quite a bit. Looked pretty good against a guy in Steven Kozlov who's very good on the ground. Looked very good there. Looked very good on the feet. Also ended up getting, I believe, the standing TKO in that third round. I believe he did lose a point of, I think in like the second round where he hit a grounded knee on him. But other than that, he looked pretty impressive in that matchup. I really like watching Cameron Saaiman. He has a pretty good pace, really outworks the guys that he fights, and it's very, very, very entertaining to watch. Martinez beat Brandon Davis by split decision. If you did not remember that matchup, it was where like James Krause was pretty much like yelling at him, like, bro, you got to get your shit together. You got to try and actually win this. And then shortly after, got in that whole controversy. But that was the fight. I think Cameron Saaiman can use his wrestling and then use his grappling on the ground to avoid some of the bigger strikes from Martinez on the feet. So yeah, I'm going to go Cameron Saaiman on the ground by a submission. I think maybe second or third round for this fight, but I have Cameron Saaiman by submission. Up the card, we have Garry versus Kenan Song. Garry, 10-0, 25 years of age, 74 inches of reach. Song, 19-6, 32 years of age, 71.5 inches of reach. Garry will have a 2.5 inch reach advantage in this matchup. I am going to go with Garry, and I think he does knock him out. Actually, I think, although when I was looking at this, it wasn't necessarily a hard choice, but I think Garry coming off, 7 months, probably about 8 months by the time he fights here. 8 months off. I believe he did have a kid, so I was a little worried about the distraction, but I'm assuming 25 years old, super young still. He's definitely training. Looked really good in his last match against Gabe Green. Looked really powerful. Really good technique and everything like that. Looked really, really powerful. He looked a lot better than his first couple of performances against Jordan Williams and then Darian Weeks. Definitely showed off the power. Definitely showed the good takedown defense in that matchup. For Kenan Song, his last matchup was almost 2 years ago against Max Griffin, where he got put absolutely out cold. I think Garry can do the same here. He's been showing a lot of power in his last fight specifically, and I think he can definitely put him out cold, mix it up on the feet, moving around a little bit more, making it a little bit harder for Kenan Song to get his base and start attacking him. So I think he's just going to set him up and probably hit him with like a high kick and then just hurt him really badly and maybe just put him out, honestly. So I'm going to go Garry by a first or second round KO in this matchup against Kenan Song. Up the card, we have Julian Marquez versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Marquez, 9-3, 32 years of age and 72 inches of reach. Barriault, 14-6, 33 years of age and 74 inches of reach. Barriault will have a 2-inch reach advantage. For this one, I was actually flip-flopping a lot. I thought I was going to go with Marc-Andre Barriault, and then I started contemplating Marquez. I guess I'll kind of just work through it a little bit. Barriault, his last couple fights against Anthony Hernandez, pretty much got out-grappled there, got mixed in, got Anthony Hernandez, basically what it was. Anthony Hernandez looked really good in that fight. Won against Jordan Wright, as you should. Did get taken down a couple of times. Lost to Chidi Njokuani, I believe, extremely quickly. Probably like 10 or 16 seconds. Something super early in the round. Got caught very early. And then won a decision against Dalcha Lugiambula. For Julian Marquez, coming off a very brutal KO loss against Gregory Rodriguez. Got put absolutely out cold. Beat Sam Alvey, as you should. Beat Maki Pitolo. Was pretty much getting wrestled the whole time, and then ended up getting that KO punch at the end. Lost a split decision to Alessio Di Chirico, which it is what it is, I guess, at this point. I believe he did lose to Kopylov in his last fight, but then beat Darian Stewart. So I think for this matchup, I was thinking Marc-Andre Barriault because he'll kind of mix it up. He has definitely a little bit more output, but I think for Julian Marquez, I think he can find the chin of Marc-Andre Barriault. I think he can hurt Barriault a couple times, and I think I'm going to go with Marquez in this matchup. I don't know if the power in Barriault will necessarily KO or take out Marquez. I guess after a brutal KO, you might have some of those questions, especially with a 32-year-old against a guy like Rodriguez, and maybe you start to question the chin a little bit, but he took the right time off. I think he's going to be able to find the chin of Barriault, honestly. I think he'll probably just need a couple shots, and I think he'll look a little bit better in this one. He was a little skittish in that Rodriguez fight because, again, that power is just absolutely insane. So I am going to go with Marquez. It is 70-30. I know a lot of people are taking Barriault, so I think I'm just going to edge Marquez here. I think this is going to be actually pretty close. So I think he can find the chin of Barriault in this matchup. So I am going to go with Marquez by a TKO in like the second round of this matchup. I just think he can find it. If Chidi can find it, even though Chidi's a very good fighter, has really good KO power. You saw him hurt, actually, Gregory Rodriguez in their matchup and then ended up getting KO'd himself. I think if Chidi can find it, as much as he's super technical, I think eventually Marquez will be able to find it on the feet for sure. So I'm going to go Marquez again, second round TKO. Up the card, we have Viviane Araujo versus Amanda Ribas. Araujo, 11-4, 36 years of age, 68 inches of reach. Ribas, 10-3, 29 years of age and 66 inches of reach. Araujo will have a 2-inch reach advantage. I think I am going to go with Ribas in this matchup. I think a 36-year-old Viviane Araujo, I think Amanda Ribas will be able to get her down to the ground and wrestle her to the ground. For the previous fight, Viviane Araujo lost a decision to Alexa Grasso. I believe it was the Fight Night main event. I think it was pretty unanimous, if I remember correctly. Beat Andrea Lee. I think she had a little bit of a bad first round. I think she did get knocked down in that fight. And then won a decision against Caitlin Chukagian for Amanda Ribas. Won a split decision against Caitlin Chukagian. Beat Verna Jandaroba. Lost to Marina Rodriguez. So her losses aren't necessarily bad at all. Same with Viviane Araujo. These guys are definitely some of the better fighters in the division, but I do think Amanda Ribas, 29 years old, definitely improving a little bit more than Viviane Araujo at 36 years old. So I think she's going to be able to use some of her grappling abilities, and I think that's how she's going to win the round. Probably a close decision is my assumption. Probably more of a 29-28 kind of thing for Araujo, definitely getting a little bit more points on the feet before ending up on the ground. So I'm going to go with Amanda Ribas by 29-28 decision. I think it is going to be close, but I do think she's going to get the best of her on the ground for sure. Up the card, we have Derek Brunson versus Dricus du Plessis. Brunson, 23-8, 39 years of age, 77 inches of reach. Du Plessis, 18-2, 29 years of age and 76 inches of reach. Brunson will have a 1-inch reach advantage. I am going to go with du Plessis in this matchup. I think he's going to be able to honestly hurt Derek Brunson on the feet, and I think we'll see a little bit of a sloppy takedown from Brunson. Maybe du Plessis gets in a guillotine, or I think in my brain, I think Brunson's probably going to shoot for a bad takedown, probably like just tip over a little bit. Plessis going to rush him, move him up a little bit, get into that mount. Brunson's going to flip over, or I think the thing with du Plessis is the way he finishes fights is, so let's look at it real quick, how Tapology has it. Du Plessis, his wins, I believe, is 7 wins by TKO or KO, and then 10 wins by submission. So he is getting a lot of submissions, but I think he's going to be able to dump. He's going to be able to dump Brunson after he shoots like a bad takedown, after I think du Plessis catches him on the feet eventually, probably in like the second round, or maybe the first round, honestly. But I think maybe the second round he catches Brunson on the feet. Brunson shoots in for a bad takedown, gets kind of tipped over. Du Plessis uses his strength, gets him on the ground, maybe moves into more of a mount. Either Brunson flips over and du Plessis gets his neck, or I think du Plessis finishes him on the ground by TKO. You saw in that freaking Darren Till fight where he just was unloading shots against the fence, which pretty much kind of made that fight competitive, in all honesty. If Darren Till, because of Darren Till, was able to get out of that position, he was kind of gassed for most of that fight. Even though du Plessis definitely gassed a little bit, he kind of has like that workhorse cardio. He looks like he's tired, but he definitely moves like he's not. Like he definitely has like that bank of energy that he goes off of. I do like that he's coming off of a fight like 2 months ago. I guess it would be around 2.5 months ago, whatever it is. 2.5 months ago. I do like how active he is, so I really like that. I think he's going to be able to beat Derek Brunson, hurt him on the feet, and then again get him in either a guillotine, dump him over, and then get a submission or TKO on the ground. It's just whatever with du Plessis. I do think he does get a finish in this matchup. Brunson, coming off that KO loss to Cannonier a year ago. Yeah, I just think du Plessis gets it done for sure. Du Plessis looked good against Brad Tavares, although he did have that worrisome first round a little bit. He was getting beat up pretty badly, but then came back and looked really good in that second round. Beat Trevin Giles, and then pretty much destroyed Darren Till in that first round. had a rough second round, came back in the third round and finished it off there. So I am going to go with Du Plessis by finish in this matchup. Up the card, we have Cody Garbrandt versus Trevin Jones. Garbrandt 12-5, 31 years of age, 65.5 inches of reach. Jones 13-9, 32 years of age and 70 inches of reach. Trevin Jones will have a 4.5-inch reach advantage in this matchup. I think Cody Garbrandt can get this done 100%. It's whether or not I trust him to get it done is the main issue here. It's not that his chin is bad. He does have like a half decent chin. I think it's more of a defensive issue for Cody Garbrandt. Although like he did go down to 125. I think that really didn't help, honestly. Definitely made him chinny for sure. And his defense still wasn't there, so he definitely went out relatively quickly. My goodness. But I think it's more of a defense issue. I know he's training with Eric Nicksick, and I think he actually has been working on it. But I think when Cody Garbrandt just gets into those scraps, he gets hyped up. He's like, oh, I'm hurting him. And then he just loses the technique, like loses the defense that he has been working on. So that's what I am kind of worried about. I kind of just want to go with Trevin Jones just for the fact that maybe Cody Garbrandt lands some good punches and then he starts going crazy and then he just ends up getting caught, which could happen for sure. So I think I might go with Trevin Jones in this one. I guess I have to kind of give a definite answer for this. Tapology is giving a 66% to Cody Garbrandt, a 34% to Trevin Jones. For Trevin Jones, his last couple fights against Raoni Barcelos, Javid Basharat, and Saidyokub Rakhmonov, who are also very, very good competitors. So losing to them isn't necessarily bad, but to go through a little bit of his tapology, we have losses to a win over Mario Bautista, which is aged pretty well. Mario Bautista looked really good, and a win over Timur Valiev. I believe he did get in trouble with marijuana after this fight. Yeah, tested positive for marijuana, which is no longer an issue at this point. So he did get a KO win over Timur Valiev and a win over Mario Bautista, which are pretty good wins to actually have. Cody Garbrandt lost 4 of his last 5 with a win over Rafael Sunsao, hitting that buzzer beater, I guess. But yeah, I'm gonna go Trevin Jones in this one. I don't know if I trust Cody Garbrandt again. I am gonna be rooting for him in this matchup, but I don't think I trust him enough to hold, just to be defensive for this matchup. Play it safe, not take too many risks defensively. Like, you can land some really good punches, but don't take too many risks defensively to where you have a chance of getting knocked out. Trevin Jones has really good power, although he did lose those last 3 fights, and the 13-9 record doesn't look necessarily good. Last 3 fights have been against pretty good opponents, let's be real. And Trevin Jones was landing some good punches on these guys, and I think Cody Garbrandt, if those land pretty flush like how they did on Basharat, who does train at the same gym, but I do think Cody Garbrandt has been working defensively. It's just whether he keeps that up in the exchanges is the main issue here. So I am going to go with Trevin Jones by a KO. I don't want to make this pick, but I think just to save my ass in case Cody Garbrandt doesn't show up for this one, I think I have to choose Trevin Jones. But I am going to be rooting for Cody Garbrandt. I hope he figures it out. He's a big name in the UFC. It'd always be good to have one of those bigger names back in the division. Maybe not necessarily title contention. I don't think he'll ever be there, but I think maybe just in the top 15, maybe towards the top 10. It's always good to have someone like Cody Garbrandt. So I'm going to go Trevin Jones by a KO. Maybe, yeah, I think I'll go second round KO. I think Cody Garbrandt does actually pretty well in that first round. I think he plays pretty defensive, and I think he gets scrappy in that second round, loses that defensive technique, and then just drops that hand and then just gets KO'd or TKO'd. I don't think he goes out cold, but I do think he gets TKO'd. Up the card, we have Jamie Pickett versus Bo Nickal. Pickett, 13-8, 34 years of age, 80 inches of reach. Nickal, 3-0, 27 years of age and 76 inches of reach. Jamie Pickett will have a 4-inch reach advantage on Bo Nickal in this matchup, but too bad it won't matter. Let's be real. Bo Nickal is probably just going to destroy Jamie Pickett in this matchup. He looks super impressive on both of his Contender Series fights. Actually showed KO power. Not necessarily too much, because I think they all ended relatively quickly. I think it's like under 3 minutes of total competing time and overall in all of his MMA matches. So it's super impressive. Showed that KO power. I believe he hit a good overhand in his last matchup, but he also showed really good, of course, wrestling, and showed really good grappling. For Jamie Pickett, believe it or not, Jamie Pickett, his losses and his wins. His loss, Dennis Tululin, which isn't a bad loss necessarily, but he did get kind of grinded out on the ground pretty badly. A loss to Kyle Dawkins. I don't trust the loss to Kyle Dawkins is iffy. Chris Dawkins is bad. Kyle Dawkins is iffy for sure. Joseph Holmes, he beat. I guess that's good. Lawrence Tripoli lost to Jordan Wright. So losing to Jordan Wright and Adakis does not look good for sure. I think Bo Nickal goes out there, destroys him. I think he goes in for a takedown, puts him on the ground, and then submits him very early in that first round. I'm not going to say what submission, maybe a rear naked, but I do think he does submit him very quickly on the ground against Jamie Pickett. 100%. So I'm going to go Bo Nickal by his submission. I don't know if he necessarily just weighs out the stand-up. Maybe he does a little bit, waits for Jamie Pickett to kind of attack first, but I think Jamie Pickett's going to be waiting for the takedown. I think Bo Nickal is just going to do it anyway. So he's a minus 1,400, plus 850 underdog. Massive favorite here. UFC is definitely showcasing him on that main card for sure. It seems like they're doing that a lot with their prospects, but yeah, Bo Nickal by submission in that first round. Up the card, we have Mateusz Gamrot versus Jalin Turner. Gamrot 21-2, 32 years of age, 70.5 inches of reach. Turner 13-5, 27 years of age, and 75.5 inches of reach. Turner will have a 5-inch reach advantage in this matchup. I did do an early prediction and breakdown. I did go a little bit more in depth than I probably will at this point. I'm just going to go over it a little bit. But for this matchup, I am going to go with Jalin Turner. I do really like Mateusz Gamrot. I think he is one of the better, if not the best, pure wrestler in that division. I think he's extremely good. His last few wins and losses, his loss to Beneil Dariush, looks solid in there. Showcases wrestling quite a bit. One against Arman Tsarukyan, a little bit more controversial there, but he was very competitive in that matchup against a really good guy in Arman Tsarukyan. Showed off his pace in his wrestling, looked very, very good in that matchup. Beat Diego Pereira and Jeremy Stevens. Jalin Turner recently beating Brad Riddell 7 months ago, so he has taken quite a bit of time off. Beat him by guillotine. I believe he did hurt Brad Riddle before he did put him in the guillotine. Beat Jamie Malarkey, beat Uros Medic. So I'm going to go with Jalin Turner. This is kind of a step up in competition, especially on short notice for Mateusz Gamrot, even though I do think Mateusz Gamrot does stay in quite a bit of shape. I do look at his Instagram and things like that. He's very, very much in shape all year round. He's definitely takes care of himself 100%. But I am going to go with Jalin Turner. He's a big dude. Has 5-inch reach advantage, 6'3", super massive dude. He definitely cuts quite a bit to make 155. It's probably why he takes so much time off. Let's be real. He probably cuts a lot of weight. Definitely no short notice fights for Jalin Turner in the future. I think he definitely needs time to cut. He's a very, very big guy. He's very fast and very powerful. I do think Mateusz Gamrot can get takedowns on him, but I think the speed and the power of Jalin Turner, I think he's going to be able to hit Gamrot. I think he might be able to hurt him. Maybe TKO him eventually, but I do think Jalin Turner wins this matchup for sure. I don't know. I really like Mateusz Gamrot, but I do think Turner's just going to catch him. This is a short notice fight. I guess it's kind of short notice for both of these guys, but Jalin Turner has been ready. Mateusz Gamrot has probably been in decent conditioning, but I just think Jalin Turner catches him on the chin. I think eventually TKOs him, maybe in the second round after Gamrot probably gets like a late first round takedown, goes more towards like an ankle pick or like just diving on his foot and just tipping him over. But I do see some early success for Gamrot. I think Jalin Turner does have some decent wrestling of his own, so I think he's going to be able to at least compete against that a little bit. But I do think second round, I do think he catches Gamrot. He's just too fast and too powerful, I think, and too big. It's going to be a little bit harder to get him down in general. Even though Gamrot does have really good wrestling, it's going to be a little bit harder because of how big he is in general. He is lengthy, so it is a bigger target to try and get down. But again, it's very bigger, very, 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 very much bigger guy than Mateusz Gamrot. So I'm going to expect Jalin Turner to catch Mateusz Gamrot in this matchup. Eventually TKO him in the second round. So that's what I'm going to go for this matchup. Up the card, we have Jeff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. Neal 15-4, 32 years of age, 75 inches reach, no half there. Rakhmonov 16-0, 28 years of age, 77 inches reach, a 2-inch reach advantage in this matchup. I am going to go with Shavkat Rakhmonov. I'm not jumping on the Jeff Neal pick here. He has a 93% on Tapology. It's probably about right there. Minus 500, maybe a little much, especially for Jeff Neal, who actually just knocked out Vicente Luque, who looked really good there. But I do think Shavkat Rakhmonov does beat Jeff Neal in this matchup. Although Jeff Neal did stuff all of below Muhammad's takedowns, I think Shavkat will definitely be able to mix it in a little bit here. And I think Shavkat keeping a good distance on Jeff Neal will cause some issues for Jeff Neal. In all honesty, I think he's going to be able to keep a really good distance, use some of those kicks, and I think mixing those takedowns, take down Jeff Neal, and maybe just hold a dominant position there, find different positions. Jeff Neal will be definitely very defensive. I think he's going to be able to defend a little bit of the earlier takedowns, but I think eventually Shavkat will start to get at him. Shavkat, his previous matchups, Neil Magny win. It was a little bit of a messy fight. This is going to be really Shavkat's #1 test here. Carlson Harris KO. What else we got? It's not popping up. Michelle Prazares. For Jeff Neal's last couple, KO went over Vicente Luque, split decision over Santiago Ponzinibbio, lost to Neil Magny, which is always a rough one. But for Shavkat Rakhmonov, I don't know if he gets a finish in this matchup. He has a 100% finish percentage, 50-50, 8 wins by KO, 8 wins by submission. Maybe he does get the submission later on in this fight. That might be a decent prediction here, but Shavkat by decision might be different. Good here also. I think he's going to be able to mix it in well on Jeff Neal, keep a good distance on the feet. And maybe we might see a submission by Rakhmonov. Maybe he just takes the back eventually of a Jeff Neal when he is trying to get up from some of those takedowns, move into different positions. Maybe Shavkat can definitely catch his back. But yeah, this one might go to a decision. This might end Shavkat's 16-fight finish streak in his matchup. So could be pretty interesting here. I do think Shavkat Rakhmonov definitely wins, and he will move on to the top ranks of the welterweight division, where we get some even more interesting matchups. So we're going Shavkat Rakhmonov, maybe by late submission or a decision, 100% in this match. Up the card, we have Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso. Shevchenko 23-3, 34 years of age, 65.5 inches of reach. Grasso 15-3, 29 years of age at 66 inches of reach. Grasso will have a half-inch reach advantage in this matchup. We have a very good boxer versus a very good kickboxer in Muay Thai. She does train at Tiger Muay Thai, at least is what it says on Tapology. I do think Shevchenko wins this on the feet, probably by decision, 50-45 decision win for Valentina Shevchenko here. I think she just mixing the kicks, honestly. I think that's a real difference here. She mixing the kicks and mixes it up on the feet, makes it a little difficult for Alexa Grasso. That's kind of what I have here. I think this is a little bit of an easier win for Shevchenko, minus 625, big favorite, plus 450, Alexa Grasso. I think the tougher test for Valentina Shevchenko is starting to come up. Tyler Santos, I guess, is not wanting to come to the U.S., so it seems like the next fight to make is Erin Blanchfield versus Valentina Shevchenko. So maybe Erin Blanchfield might be able to get it done against Shevchenko. She's really good wrestling and grappling, but yeah, this is kind of an easier matchup for Shevchenko. I do think she definitely wins 5 rounds. Maybe Alexa Grasso steals a round or something with that, but I definitely think Valentina Shevchenko wins unanimously for sure in this matchup. She definitely has some tougher matchups ahead as the division starts to shuffle a little bit, so those should be interesting, but this is what I have for now. Up the card, we have Jon Jones versus Ciryl Gane in the main event of this UFC 285 card. This should be a very nice main event. We have Jones at 26-1, 35 years of age, 84.5 inches of reach. Gane 11-1, 32 years of age, 81 inches of reach. Jon Jones will have a 3.5-inch reach advantage in this matchup. This one is a little rough and a little tough to make. In all honesty, I feel like both of these guys could definitely win. Jon Jones, coming off of that Reyes matchup, definitely makes this a little bit more interesting for sure. If he was a little bit more dominant in that matchup, I think this one would be definitely Jones. I think a lot of people would be choosing Jones more here. Gane is 42%, Jones is 58% on Tapology, so it's pretty much about split. For this matchup, though, let me just actually go through their previous opponents. Ciryl Gane beating Tai Tuivasa by KO, did get dropped in that matchup, but was able to come back and finish off Tai Tuivasa. That was really the only blemish of that fight. Did lose the Francis Ngannou. Was a little bit arguable there. I think there's definitely a pretty solid argument that Gane did win that fight, but they did give the decision to Francis Ngannou. Did beat Derek Lewis, TKO'd him pretty much against the fence, just destroyed him in that fight. Did really well against Volkov. Also, Jon Jones, last fight 3 years ago against Dominic Reyes, won that decision. I don't think he won that fight personally, but there's a lot of things that we can take from that Dominic Reyes fight and apply to this fight for sure. Did beat Thiago Santos by split decision, beat Anthony Smith, beat Alexander Gustafsson, and then I guess pretty much beat Daniel Cormier, but it didn't count. So for this matchup, I am going to go with Jon Jones, and here's why. I think for Ciryl Gane, although there's those rumors that he doesn't really train outside the camp, and I think his coach Kenan said a couple of things about it. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think for sure Gane is going to be expecting some takedowns here against Francis Ngannou. I'm sure he wasn't expecting it, but his wrestling and grappling was not very good in that matchup. I'm just going to be completely honest. And he was, after Francis Ngannou took him down, he was not like disciplined enough to keep himself safe from getting taken down. I know Francis Ngannou is a way bigger guy, but I think Jon Jones against a guy like Ciryl Gane that throws a lot of teeps, I think he can catch some of those and trip him to the ground or put him against the fence and maybe eventually just pull him to the ground or make this a super boring fight. But for Jon Jones, this is a little difficult on the other end because Ciryl Gane definitely does a lot of that bounce, does move a lot. You saw it in the Francis Ngannou fight. Francis Ngannou was never really able to set his feet, especially early on in the rounds when he wasn't looking for takedowns. He wasn't really able to set his feet because Gane would definitely bounce around, land some shots, and then move around a little bit, and he would cause Francis Ngannou to move quite a bit. In that Dominic Reyes and Jon Jones fight, Dominic Reyes was moving a lot. He was using a lot of those rhythm steps and was definitely taking advantage of that against Jon Jones. Was able to catch Jon Jones a couple times, not necessarily hurt him. I think he did hurt him once, but was able to land some good shots on Jon Jones, using some of that movement, not letting Jon Jones kind of sit there and collect his base a little bit, stay patient on the feet. He was just constantly moving, making Jon Jones follow him a little bit, not expecting what he's going to do. That's what Ciryl Gane kind of does here. So it is going to be a little bit tricky for Jon Jones. I think Jon Jones needs to kind of push him against the fence, or maybe Ciryl Gane, he does like to throw a lot of teeps to the body, maybe throw a teep and try and catch it and then get him down to the ground by tripping him. But I think if this does get to the ground, for a guy like Ciryl Gane, who definitely showed his back quite a bit on the ground, trying to get up, I think Jon Jones can definitely take advantage of that and maybe get a submission in this matchup. He has definitely has a different level of grappling on the ground from the light heavyweight division moving up to the heavyweights, but it just depends on what he looks like at the heavyweight division. Putting on all that pounds is the real issue. I think Ciryl Gane definitely gets the best of Jon Jones on the feet for sure. I think Ciryl Gane's movement, again, like we saw in that Reyes fight, I think the movement's going to get the best of Jon Jones here with Ciryl Gane. I think Ciryl Gane definitely wins early. We'll see Jon Jones try to shoot in a little bit, push him against the fence. I don't think he gets that success early enough, but I think we do see Ciryl Gane land a teep kick, and I think Jon Jones catches it, pushes him against the fence, and then tries to like drag him down a little bit or trip him over. Jon Jones is going to be able to get him to the ground. I think he's going to be able to tire out Ciryl Gane. Eventually, in that Francis Ngannou fight, Ciryl Gane, when he did get tired after those wrestling and grappling situations, he wasn't really bouncing and moving as much. I think Jon Jones early on can wrestle a little bit, maybe get a submission. I think that's a little bit interesting there. Although I hope Gane worked on his grappling in this matchup. Gane did not look very good in the grappling scenarios. Went for a couple leg locks, like tried to roll in a couple leg locks and got put in the bottom position a couple times. It did not look good at all for Gane. Hopefully he's been training that. For people who are picking Gane. I think it is going to go to a decision. If not, maybe maybe Jones does get a submission. I am a little worried that this is going to be a little boring because both of these guys are very patient on the feet, but I am going to go with Jon Jones. I am going to have a more in-depth breakdown of this fight, probably use a little bit more footage. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know who you think will win this main event. Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time.